Yeah, the countdown show is on. Take advantage of it, as I said before. Let's talk security now. The IGP, a couple of weeks back, directed that State Commissioner of Police should mop up arms across the country, and they've been doing that. In fact, they came out to tell the people that they should willingly surrender the arms and ammunition to avoid being prosecuted when they decide on their own to go out to houses or anywhere to search for these arms. And to a large extent, we've seen some level of response. But there are some issues surrounding it that we'll be talking about this morning. I have with me in the studio Barrister Usazua Omonua joining me here. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And then Barrister Leonard Osa Owagie would have loved to be in the studio physically, but he'll be joining us via telephone to also lend his voice to the conversation this morning. And then, as usual, our studio line will be opened. Our WhatsApp number will be open, so you can also contribute to the discussion by sending us short messages on our WhatsApp number. The number is already on the screen. You can take the number down and be part of the discussion this beautiful Monday morning. Let's begin, because it's important that we establish the position of the law in ownership of a gun, even though we know those who are into crime and criminality will not have anything to do with that law. Otherwise, they know that would be self-destruction in the first place. Yeah. What is the position of the law as it relates to gun ownership in Nigeria?
Okay, gun ownership is regulated by the Firearms Act of 1990. And under that law, a citizen who wants to acquire or possess gun must obtain the license to do so from the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria or the Inspector General of Police. As a matter of fact, the President will normally act through the Inspector General of Police.
Okay.
So, and that Firearms Act also stipulates and lists the kind of firearms that a Nigerian can acquire and keep in his possession. In fact, the last time I checked that law, that law is all-encompassing. There's virtually no kind of firearm or ammunition that is left out. So, legally speaking, for every firearm a Nigerian can acquire or keep, he must obtain and have a license to do so. Further to that, the same law also gives the President the power to proclaim that all arms in the possession of Nigerians should be returned. Gives the President that power. And it can apply according to how the President gives that proclamation to the entire Federation, or he can apply only to a specific area of the Federation or a specific segment of an area of the Federation, depending on the policy targets at a point in time.
Okay. This in a nutshell is targeted at reducing crime and criminality. Is it workable in your opinion?
Yes.
This strategy of arms mob up?
Personally, first and foremost, I am of the view and belief that firearms should not be handled by civilians. It's my personal opinion. Rather, it should be the business of those in the forces, be it the military, the police, the paramilitary, who are trained psychologically, mentally, emotionally, if you like, spiritually, to handle firearms. Because that is one instrument at the click can take human life.
Absolutely.
So that is where I see it personally. But coming to the workability and the present situation we find ourselves, it gives Nigerians concern, including myself, and rightly so, I dare to say, that in trying to reclaim or collect back firearms or ammunition in possession of Nigerians, you have to be very transparent. You have to be very open. You must employ equity and equality, because there are also constitutional safeguards and provisions you have to also protect. For instance, the Nigerian Constitution, which is the ground norm of this country, 1999 as amended,
Okay.
says first and foremost that the sovereignty belongs to the people. In other words, you must carry the people along for every major policy
Okay.
that will touch their lives.
Okay.
Added to that, that same chapter 2, fundamental objectives, also says that the security and welfare of Nigeria must guide every government, parastatal, and agency in carrying out policies. So, having said that, you go to chapter 4, you will find that the law provides the right to own movable properties, which to my mind will include guns. Yes, movable and immovable,
Okay.
which to my mind will include guns. So
Okay.
you must be able to marry the workability of implementing an act against the backdrop of what the Constitution says.
Okay.
So that you don't seem to be offending
Or
the
co-
very spirit of our
Or
Constitution
be contradictory.
in any way.
Okay.
So, having said that, we must not also forget the peculiar nature of our ethnic diversity in this country and our different interests. If you take a good look at history, you see that there have been some ugly incidents that gives Nigerians and people generally concerned. For instance, within this 20th century, if you take your mind back to Turkey, in 1915, Turkey made a proclamation to collect back all ammunition and arms from its citizens. In doing that, they collected all the arms of the Armenians, who were predominantly Christians, influential people with big cities and churches. By 1917, the Armenians, we know what happened to them, have been completely obliterated and wiped out. Their churches turned to mosque and their cities destroyed. Go to Russia or the Soviet Union. At some point in time, the Soviet Union made a proclamation recovering ammunition from its citizens. Within that decade, more than 6 million persons they consider dissidents have been completely obliterated and exterminated. You go to Cambodia, we all know the notorious Cambodian oligarchy and dictatorship.
Okay.
They also did a proclamation to recover ammunition from its citizens. But it's said within 5 years, persons or educated, defenseless Cambodians have been had charges brought up against them and taken to the gallows. Come to Germany here, in Europe. In around 1938, the same proclamation to recover ammunition from citizens of Germany was carried out. And we all know what happened to the Jews when Nazi Germany took them to the gas chambers. So Nigerians, and indeed everyone, is concerned that this does not turn out to be a situation when you render a man defenseless for any clandestine policy or strategy.
Okay.
Because, like I said, if you have A and B, you cannot recover all the ammunitions with A and leave B's own with him. You cannot also, for instance, recover 90% of the ammunitions with A and recover only 60% with B. You understand me?
Yeah.
So it leads to a backlash and other consequences.
Okay.
I admit, sir,
Yeah.
that, for instance, in the Niger Delta, there's arms to be collected. In the east, there are arms to be collected from the agitators there. In the west, there are arms to be collected. I also believe that there are arms to be collected from the farmers. There are arms to be collected from the Fulani herdsmen. There are arms to be collected from the Boko Haram people and their sympathizers. So you must have a workable process
Okay. By that, are you in any way suggesting that this gun recovery, firearm recovery policy of the federal government through the IGP is not properly situated?
It can't be properly situated.
But currently, it's not properly situated. That's what you're saying.
It must be seen to be properly situated. It's not just to say it is properly situated. It must be seen to be properly situated.
Okay.
Are the stakeholders carried along?
What specific examples do you have to buttress this seeming lack of proper situation of this policy, as it were?
Because Nigerians have worried why the security apparatus of this country are in the hands of a particular ethnic group. If you look at the fundamental objectives of this country, it ought not to be so. The truth must be said. Everything you do, even in appointments, must reflect the federal character.
Okay.
If a particular segment of the country, in all fairness to them, are now to regulate how arms are being owned or collected, then a man has the right to say, no, get more people involved. That is the question. That is the concern, and rightly so.
If you just join us, it's TMI Monday. We're looking at gun control and community policing. Of course, the efforts by the IGP through the State Commissioner of Police to mop up arms across the country has been yielding fruits, because we've actually seen instances where youths came out to surrender their arms willfully and willingly. But the concerns, which of course learned brother here has expressed on, is that it tends to lend some credence to the fact that this may just be a ploy to ensure some of these communities are defenseless in the event of an attack, against the background that day in, day out, instances are bound where Fulani headsmen attack communities, and then the communities or the victims are not able to defend themselves. I mean, case in point is the Odigi incident, where a pastor, Pius Eromosale, yes, was alleged to have been killed by headsmen, and then of course the matter has been raging. And to that effect, in recent time, the state governor has issued a ban on any form of grazing in that community. What we're looking forward to see is the enforcement of that. But we also know that some time ago, the state governor also banned night grazing. And people said that's not the real issue, because most of the grazing seems to be done in the daytime, not in the night time. Why don't you just go out and have an anti-grazing law, just to ensure that all of these issues are properly captured and well situated, and then they are dealt with? Well, that's certainly a matter for another day. But it brings to point the fact that the security situation in this country is not really encouraging, to the point that all of these issues just keep occurring every now and then like a recurring decimal.
Yes.
And people think that the best approach to it will be community policing, state policing, getting the communities involved in policing. What do you make of this?
Yeah, personally, I do not subscribe to community policing. Rather, I do not subscribe to state policing. Community policing, I subscribe to community policing, in the sense that vigilante groups can be set up to secure the immediate environment where persons live in. But to create a state police that will also be a burden on the state government, and that is subject to abuse by the chief executive of states, I do not subscribe to it. Because even if the federal police, even if we see that it's been abused, but I think that to now duplicate that in the states, we increase the sphere of abuse. Because when chief executives want to get their way, politically or otherwise, you are going to see abuses. So I think Nigeria is not yet matured for state policing. But for community policing, it can be sometimes in the form of paramilitary or I don't know what, an ad hoc or not too forceful kind of arrangement.
Yeah. Yeah.
That can be easily managed and funded by the state government or even the local government. But to not have a state police entrenched in the constitution, some of us don't agree with it. It will be subject to serious abuse. I understand that in the colonial days, it was abused. This time around, it's even going to be more so. So community policing, using policing literally now, is okay to secure our neighborhoods. Right now, in most areas in Benin, you have vigilantes. When you are sleeping at night, you hear some noise of vigilantes moving up and down.
Even when you're coming home late, in some area they stop you and then they try
know
to find where you're coming
from. They know that you actually live here. They know that once in a while you can come late. And they know a strange man coming in or out. You know, so sometimes when you are in your gate trying to enter your house, maybe you're having difficulty with your key, they know you are the one. But when it's somebody else who they do not know, trying to get in there, and with some difficulty, they know that this is a strange person. So that kind of policing, community policing, is okay. But state police, when Nigeria is not right for it.
Now look at it. Of course, it brings us to the issue that was raised a while ago, which has to do with the gun control, mop-up of arms. That, to a large extent, for example, will reduce the capacity of the vigilantes to be able to function in communities.
It will. But as a matter of fact, like I said, every gun owner in Nigeria, including groups, rifle clubs, or whatever you call it, must have a license. If, for instance, the state or local government want to have vigilante groups, the guns it gives to them must pass through the test of getting a license from the IGP or the president. So at that point in time, the president or whoever he delegates that power to knows that this group that is policing an area, a street, a local government has license. And there are safeguards. They are supposed to send representatives to check the activities and check the number of guns they have and check the capacity of the individuals there to handle those guns. And whether or not they are practicing how to properly use the guns. Because even the law, Firearms Act, says that you cannot license a gun to somebody who is mentally unstable. You cannot license a gun in Nigeria to somebody who is under 17. You cannot license a gun to somebody who has been known to be violent and unstable, and so many other conditions that have to be passed.
Our WhatsApp number, as I said earlier, is up and running, and I'm sure you've been following the discussion. You probably have a thought or two to share with us in the course of our conversation. The WhatsApp number 070-870-341599. That's the number. Just send the message there right now. We'll have it on the screen, and then we'll get your views and opinion in dealing with this issue, particularly against the background of recent incidents, particularly in Taraba. I was particularly touched by the story today where it was alleged that the army in a particular area withdrew, and then of course immediately we had these notorious groups coming on board and then attacking people, killing people, and doing all sorts of things, which is quite sad. And that brings us to the issue of gun control and policing. Now, I said some time ago in one of our programs that the late Alfred Nobel, who was a Swedish chemist, set the pace or the template for this kind of issue. Well, he was a very weak man who didn't have the strength to blast rock, which was the trending and most thriving business at that time. But he was able to design and develop a dynamite. You just install a dynamite in a rock. Once the explosion takes place, you have rocks blasted, and then it became a very wealthy man. That's how the Nobel Peace Prize came into existence. But I'm not looking at the Peace Prize. But in his own thinking, the dynamite at that time became the biggest war facility, became the biggest weapon of mass destruction at that time. And he's of the opinion that if I have a weapon of mass destruction, you have a weapon of mass destruction. Everybody has. It's very unlikely that we'll attack each other because we know the consequence. It's like having the U.S. attack China or the U.S. attack Russia directly, knowing the consequence. And so he's of the opinion that if we have such a scenario, that probably will help to bring about world peace and global peace.
I'll quickly come in there.
Okay.
That is very analogous to the American system.
Yes.
Because America, just like Nigeria, has suffered some bitter civil wars in the past. And flowing from that civil war, there was that civil war left a lot of arms and ammunition in its trail. So, and American society witnessed a lot of killings of individuals. People being shot by the street corner here and there. So, I think the Americans came together sometime in 1791 that if a man must die, the man must have a right to try to defend himself instead of being plucked just like a foliage. So the Americans entrenched in their constitution, I think by way of the Second Amendment, that the right to bear arms should not be tampered with.
Okay.
So, but right now, the situation, as we all know, have gone awry. There's hardly a day, a week, a month, at most, where you don't see gun-related violence across the United States. And some of them have even turned racial, like the incidents in Florida, where school children were slaughtered by some mentally deranged young man because he was able to get access to assault ammunition, deadly ammunition. So that is how sometimes that kind of policy could seem to work, could seem to attempt to solve that target idea that if you have arm, I have arm, we are equally cautious and protected. We want to attack each other, but it can get out of hand. Like it has happened in America. For instance, in Australia, Australia recovered guns from all its citizens. It's a big offense to have a gun in Australia. Canada, the same thing. United Kingdom, you can hardly see gun-related violence. Most of the violence you see is maybe knife. And how many people can you kill in a public place by knife? It's limited. So, whilst it is it may be okay for people to have guns, at the same time, it can go out of control. But the peculiar situation of complex societies like the US and even in Nigeria, as the reality on ground shows, is that you must do it transparently. Eminent stakeholders must be involved. It must be total, it must be complete. You cannot do it halfway, because there are times it may happen. I'm giving you historical background. If you leave one man defenseless, it is catastrophic. It can lead to ethnic cleansing, God forbid.
Okay. Let's say some of the messages coming in from our WhatsApp platform 070-870-341599. That's the WhatsApp number. Send your comments, your contributions, your opinions to that number. We certainly would take care of them in the course of the program. Even right now, if you have a comment there, be rest assured that we'll do justice to it just before we call it a wrap on this segment of the show. Some people said, they expected this mop-up of arms, to be more targeted at curbing the herdsmen's attack, which is prevalent in different parts of the country. Do you subscribe to this, Master?
I subscribe to that. Like I said, the Firearms Act empowers the president or the IGP to make a proclamation. Rather, the proclamation is only exercised by the president now. To make a proclamation to recover arms from the entire federation, or to recover arms from a particular segment of the federation. So because the herdsmen problem has become quite troubling, and Topica, the president can decide to recover arms from them and ensure that they face the business of rearing their livestock.
Okay.
What do they need the arms for in the first place? They focus on rearing the livestock without need for arms.
Okay. You made some references. You made reference to some sections of the Constitution, particularly the one that guarantees the security and protection of lives and property by the state. Under this discussion, based on the issues, how would you assess the performance of the state in this regard?
The various states?
Yes.
I think the states need to do more. I will not score the states so high. There is still a lot of criminalities going on in the area of kidnappings, in the area of armed robbery. I think more needs to be done. I think the problem is particularly because there are political differences between some states and the federal government. If the federal government fully cooperates, without necessarily having to entrench state police in the Constitution, with the chief executives and empower them in terms of all the resources they need to work with the commissioners of police, there will be more security. Then daytime and nightlife can be restored. We can have a fully fledged 24 hours economy. One of the problems we are having is that we have a 12 hours economy. All developed countries now have 24 hours economy. But when you have actually because of security reasons to just 12 hours economy, sometimes even less,
yeah,
you are where you are. So the states have to do more, and they have to be encouraged by the federal government to be able to do more. And the security votes have to be properly utilized. It's not for the state executives to pocket. More apparatus and equipment need to be given to the police so that they can better do their job of policing the environment and ensuring security. And once there's security, which is of course the supreme law of the land, there will be welfare can develop.
All right, thank you very much, Barrister Osazuwa Omonua, for some of the useful insights that you've shared with us on gun control and community policing. Of course, the comments are coming now. We've got Festus Oshakbame back again. Festus, thank you for your commitment to the show. You are our man today. Yeah, you're the man of the program today. Yes, I install you as the man of the program, TMI Monday. Okay, you said the gun control policy should basically be as transparent as possible. Barrister Osazuwa also made that allusion. It should encompass all Nigerians irrespective of your status in the society. The Northerners should also adhere to the policy because they are predominantly known for illegal possession of arms. When we say the Northerners, will be generalistic, okay? Will be generalistic. I'm sure we can narrow it down to the headsmen who are actually, they've been carried out a series of nefarious activities that are not going down well with the people. So let's restrict it to that. But all the same, Oshakbame Festus, you remain the man of TMI this beautiful Monday morning. Thank you for your contribution. Let's see if we can get more comments coming in from our WhatsApp platform. 070-870-341599. That's the number. Send your comments, your contributions to that number, and then we'll go right away to read them out and get some more insights from your contribution. But I want to say big thanks to Barrister Osazuwa Omonua. At such a short notice, you made it here and gave us some real interesting historical background. I mean, instances in the world, in parts of the world, where similar policies were brought to bear. You talked about Turkey, where the predominantly Christian Armenians eventually were wiped out. You talked about Germany, and then you talked, that's the Jews, and several other instances. Then you talked about Cambodia, all right, and several others where similar things happen. But I think the federal government can actually allay the fears of people living in these communities where these activities are taking place. If we also take a step further to ensure that the arms-bearing Fulani herdsmen don't have arms anymore. If these arms are also taken away from them, then of course the whole process will be seen to be transparent. The whole process will be transparent, and then people can have more confidence in whatever we're doing to checkmate this ugly tide. I want to say big thanks to you again for coming. So this is the light.
For the good of the country.
Thank you. It's the TMI Monday. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with the rest of the show in just about 10 minutes. We'll bring you a very comprehensive news update on independent television. Now, we'll bring you the promo on the World Cup Countdown show, which comes up every Wednesday on independent television with Comrade Emerson. Stay tuned.